Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Karen Cozier Phillips. C-News is live at noon. Topping the news at this time, the chairman of the San Juan-Laventille Regional Corporation, Anthony Roberts, has lashed out at the opposition leader for what he said is foolish politics. His statement came after it was reported that Kamla Persad-Bissessar said her party will go on an election footing for the by-election for the electoral district of Barataria. The election discussion has been triggered with the death of sitting councillor Permel Bruno. According to Mr. Roberts, this is not the time to talk about an election since the electoral district of Barataria has not been declared vacant as yet.
She's totally out of place and insensitive because the man has just died and she has not even given the family an opportunity to deal with the situation. All she is thinking about is election, as if that will save her. And I'm really, really upset about it.
He further explained there's a process to be followed to have a by-election.
Well, there's a process according to the Act, and we are going to move in accordance with the Act, and we will advise whoever we need to advise on the vacancy. But there's a process, right? At this time, the corporation's focus is on his family and his constituents. That's our focus.
A meeting with officials from the regional corporation will take place to decide on the best way forward at this time. Further news now, Minister of Health Terrence Deyalsingh says he will personally take the lead on dealing with an issue at the Port of Spain General Hospital. This morning, the minister confirmed that the last of 4 sterilization machines at the facility broke down, leaving workers unable to sterilize medical instruments. Now it's reported the washer equipment has not been working since 2013. Minister Deyalsingh told C-News until he can get the executive staff to deal with the issues, he is now taking the responsibility.
Because I am now taking personal responsibility for fixing all these issues, and as the article said, purchase orders have already been issued to order the parts. These pieces of equipment have been down since 2013. This is the job of hospital administration, and if the hospital administration is not doing their jobs, unfortunately, I will have to micromanage and step in and do their jobs.
Meanwhile, the minister gave an update as to what's taking place with consultations to review the regional health authorities.
Oh, that has finished. We had 3, one in North at St. Augustine Senior Comp. We had one in South at Naparima College, and we had one in Tobago, so that part is finished. We have recommendations, and we have already started, even before we went for public consultations, we started implementing some of the recommendations of the RES committee. And even before the RES committee was appointed, some of the shortcomings were so obvious that we started, and the RES committee just reaffirmed what we were doing since we came into office to fix things.
Minister of Education Anthony Garcia says that since the release of the SEA results last Tuesday, he has received a number of calls about transfers. Parents and children continue to flock various district educational offices across the country requesting transfers of schools for their children since they are not happy with the school in which their child was placed. While the minister said it's too early to determine the number of applications made so far, he maintained there's a process to be followed.
Or perhaps today. And there is a process that must be followed where people are seeking transfers for their children. First of all, the parent must register the child at the school where the child was assigned. And then that information will pass through the school supervisors to the officers in the Ministry of Education who are dealing with transfers. And depending on the availability of space, that's one. And second, depending on the performance of the child.
And the Education Minister is dismissing statistics by his predecessor, Dr. Tim Gopi-Singh, that between 2010 and 2015, the failure rate in the SEA exam decreased from about 14% to 1%. Last week, Dr. Gopi-Singh blamed the discontinuation of several programs designed to assist students for the 2,170 children who scored below 30% in this year's SEA. Minister Garcia said the ministry continues to work in the interests of citizens.
I must add that he has been disingenuous in some of the statistics that he has been producing. We at the Ministry of Education are doing everything possible to ensure that our children receive a quality education which is their right.
This is the CNews Live report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at CNews Live. Prisons officers say Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has not kept his promise to keep them safe. President of the Representing Prisons Officers Association, Sarah Richards, made the statement as he highlighted an attack on Friday night on a prisons officer while on his way home.
You recall last year when one of our officers was murdered with impunity in Laventille. You know what the Prime Minister said? The Prime Minister of this country, Dr. Keith Rowley, said, we as government are going to double our effort to protect the lives of prison officers. We have to report from then to now, over a year, we have seen no indication that government effort has been redoubled.
Mr. Richards is calling on the state to implement policies to protect officers and keep them safe from attacks from prisoners in and out of jail.
The Prison Officers Association is making statements, a statement that we have made over and over for years, that our officers remain vulnerable to the elements whenever they conduct their duty internal to prison service. It has some security effect outside when they are not on duty, and this is an area we have been pointing out to the state. Over the years, we have seen a number of officers killed, threatened, attacked, and so on. And that situation is still continuing in that just last month, we had an officer that was attacked on Charles Street. He was shot at.
He said the morale of officers was very low, but their sense of patriotism has kept them going. He called on government to remember prisons officers' lives are important too.
They are also asking for a law to make a deterrent for persons wanting to threaten, attack, or even kill a prison officer. The traffic wardens, for instance, there's a new fine that is being put in place for persons wanting to obstruct a traffic warden from doing their jobs or threaten or so on. And I think the fine is about $10,000 if I'm correct. The reality is prison officers have been threatened for years. They have been attacked for years. They have been injured and even killed. And to date, not one single parliamentary response.
Mr. Richards warned that action will be taken if their concerns are not addressed. The association representing officers at the Port Authority is again calling on the Minister of Works and Transport and the Minister of Finance to intervene and allow their salary negotiations to take place. Now, according to the Secretary of the Estate Police Association, Kurt McClatchy, they have had no negotiations for 2 periods, a total of 72 months.
We are wondering if the Honorable Minister of Finance would have gone on national television and told the entire country that public sector negotiations have come to an end. We are wondering where our proposal is at this time. It has happened in the past with previous management that we would have negotiated, and our proposal would have been, when we continued asking questions, only to discover that for 7 months it was just lying on the port idle and they had forgotten to send it outside.
He said, as it is, the workers are treated very badly and they are unhappy with what's taking place. Well, the Trade Union Federation is at this time at the Arima Dial gathering support for a labor march, which is scheduled to take place on August 4th. The unions say they are upset over the crime rate and mass retrenchment. The National Trade Union Center, the Federation of Independent Trade Unions and NGOs, and the Joint Trade Union Movement will distribute flyers identifying national issues, and they will listen to the people's views about economic, social, and political issues. At Labor Day celebrations in Faizabad on June 19th, President of JTAM, Ansel Roger, said Labor Day would be carried to the streets of Port of Spain, and that's expected to take place on August 4th. Now for the weather. Generally sunny and hazy conditions expected this afternoon with the chance of the odd shower. Tonight will be mostly clear, seas are slight, waves below 1.5 meters in open waters, less than 1 meter in sheltered areas. Meanwhile, the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service says it did not issue any storm watch or warning, and members of the public are asked to refrain from circulating erroneous information. The Met Office said for the latest forecast, visit their website at metoffice.gov.tt. Police have confirmed that an armed robbery took place at a bar in Bunsey Trace, Penal. Now, CNews was told at around 10:20 last night, 2 men with guns entered Midway Bar and announced a holdup. 4 patrons were relieved of cash and cell phones before the suspects escaped. Descriptions of the suspects were given and police said an arrest was imminent. Well, come tomorrow, Tuesday, 11th July, there will be a 2-week traffic trial plan in effect in San Fernando. The San Fernando City Corporation says this plan is aimed at tackling the major issue of traffic gridlock in the city center. Now, changes include Faizabad taxi stand will be relocated from Lord Street to the western side of Mukurapu Street. Marabala taxi stand will be reorientated southbound towards Mukurapu Street on the western side. Princestown taxi stand will be relocated to Mukurapu Street, south facing on the eastern side. Mukurapu Street will be south facing between Harris Promenade, South and Lord Street. Lord Street between Mukurapu Street and Paradise Street will be west facing, while Harris Promenade South will be west facing between Paradise Street and Mukurapu Street. Further news now, President of the Clicquot Shareholders Group, David Walker, is questioning whether the government really intends to restore Clicquot and return it to the private sector or not. Mr. Walker was addressing the concerns raised by some Caribbean countries that the government of Trinidad and Tobago may not be interested in remunerating Caribbean shareholders. Sherilyn Lewis reports.
Speaking on CTV's Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago, President of the Clicquot Policyholders Alliance, David Walker, said there was no need for the Prime Minister to allude to the Treaty of Chaguaramas in his attempt to quell the fears of Caribbean Clicquot shareholders who have been asking whether they will be justly compensated.
Straightforward companies law would tell you that if 10 people have the identical contract with a company, and for some reason they needed to be treated differently, the contract terms needed to be changed, for example, then everybody should be treated the same. So under straightforward company law and you know, equity and people's sense of fair play, I think virtually everybody would agree that if 50 people had policies with Clicquot for $1 million each, they should receive the same treatment, as long as they were depositing the money with the same Clicquot Trinidad Limited. So I don't know that we even need to go to that treaty.
Mr. Walker said he believes the same terms of remuneration which applies to TNT shareholders should apply to shareholders in the Caribbean.
For example, you had a cousin from Jamaica who had invested in Clicquot Trinidad, just as you had done. What happened was that you got some relief, whereas your cousin from Jamaica did not, although they invested in the same company. And there has been a promise long-standing that this would be resolved to the satisfaction of all, which presumably means that they would get the same terms and conditions as those who were resident in Trinidad and Tobago.
Additionally, Mr. Walker wants to know whether the government intends to return Clicquot to its original shareholders.
Well, it appears to be fairly clear that they do not wish to return control of the company to the former shareholders. They have hinted at reasons but never given any publicly. I would like to know what is the reason. Because surely if you rescue something or somebody, the intention is to make them whole, get them better, and then return them to whatever state they were in previously. It surely is not the case that when we say we're going to rescue a company, and this bodes for the future as well. If the government says it's going to rescue a company, are the directors and shareholders of that company to assume then that the government is really going to take over the company and they will never see their company again?
The Prime Minister, upon his return from the CARICOM 30th Heads of Government meeting, assured that the Clicquot matter will be settled. Sherilyn Lewis, CNews.
Minister of Trade and Industry Paula Gopi-Skoon says the government of Trinidad and Tobago is committed to restore growth and facilitate the diversification of the economy. This as she delivered the feature address at the 18th Annual Trade and Investment Convention at the Center of Excellence in Macoya. She said the well-developed manufacturing sector has been cited as an area of strength, and if properly harnessed and incentivized, it will enable us to achieve our development objectives. Minister Gopi-Skoon said the TIC provides an excellent opportunity for companies and entrepreneurs to assess feedback from clients, determine market potential, conduct research, and also evaluate competition. Minister Gopi-Skoon assured a tremendous amount of activity is taking place behind the scenes to open markets and create opportunities for our non-energy exporters in particular. And she firmly encourages domestic private sector to make full use of the opportunities in the development and execution of their business plans. That's the C News at Noon report. I'm Karen Koze-Phillip. Remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, you can visit the C News website at ctvtt.com. Do have a good afternoon.